All right, so we've set up our layers, and now we want to, let's see here, I gotta find the right lesson notes. There. So now we want to start creating the lines, and we have to make sure they're on the right layer, and we're going to start the first line at 0, 0. So we're going to be using the line command, and then the spacing between each line is 0.75 inches from each other. We've already created a style, text style, and then we're going to use dtext to add text on top of the line. So let's start with the center line here. So that means we need to be on the center layer, and we need to make that line 10 inches long. So I'm going to go to AutoCAD, and I'm going to make sure that my layer is set to center. So notice that I use the ribbon up here at home to make the current layer center. And I'm going to start a command that is going to allow me to start to draw a line. And as soon as I start L, though, L is the shortcut for line. So as soon as you see L and line comes up, it's the first thing in the list. So if I just hit enter, I've started the line command, and it's asking me to specify the first point. So while you're learning how to use AutoCAD, one of the most important things for you to do is read this command line and see what is it that I'm supposed to do next. So the instructions that the computer is giving you right now is to start your first point. And we've been given a first point. That first point is right here, 0, 0. In the Cartesian coordinate system, that means it's where X, Y, and Z intersect. Okay? So if I type in 0, 0 right now, it should start a line at that point, as long as, and here's the caveat here, as long as you've remembered to turn off dynamic input. And I'll explain that a little bit later, why it may not go in the right place if you don't have dynamic input turned on off. But for now, we're going to turn off dynamic input, and then we'll explain when you might want to use it. So I'm going to type in 0, 0 as my start point. Notice that shows up in the command line, even though my cursor's down here, and hit enter. That's how we communicate with the software. When I'm ready to put in some information, type it in, I hit enter, and that sends that information to the software. So now you can't see it very well, so you can see that I've got a blue line. So I'm going to show you how to change the background real quick. I type OP, which opens up our options. So if I hit enter, that opens up the options dialog box. And I'm going to go under display, and the color theme right now is set to dark. I'm going to change that to light and see what happens. Okay, so that, notice, just changed our ribbon. So let's change that back to dark and hit apply. So you got to really read things. So that's window elements. Those are the window elements up there, the ribbon. And maybe you want to change that back to light. But where we want to change colors that just control the color of the background, the color of our font, I mean not our font, but our cursor and things like that, is under colors down here. So let's click on that ellipsis button. And what we're working in right now is 2D model space. And we have a uniform background color of 33, 40, 48. I want to change that to white. And it gives you a preview of what that's going to look like. I'm going to hit apply and close, and then hit OK. Now, if you did like the ribbon light as well, just go back into options and change that theme to light as well. And if that feels like that's better on your eyes, then great. Now let's go back into the line command, L, enter. And I'm going to put in my first point, 0, 0, enter. And now I can see that blue line a lot better. Okay. And notice the blue line is kind of attached to this symbol over here. That's our Cartesian coordinate symbol. It's called the world coordinate symbol. And I want to drag that line out. And I'm using this green dashed snap that shows me that I'm drawing that line at what angle. You can see that right by the cursor it says polar 9.6790 at an angle of 0 degrees. So I know I'm drawing that at precisely a 0 degree direction. And I could take forever to try to move this line at exactly 10, but there's a way better way to do this. If I just type right now 10, it will show up at the command line and hit enter. it now drew a line exactly 10 units long in that direction. So that's called direct distance entry. We picked our start point by typing 0, 0, dragged the line in the direction we wanted to go in, and put in the length. That's one of the easiest ways to use the line command. All right, so the next line that we have to create is the chain line. And the chain line is supposed to be 9.313 units long. So the first thing I have to do is switch to the layer I want it to be on. And then I'm going to start the line command again. Now, I don't want to start the line here at the end point of this line. So if I were to click here, then I would be doing that incorrectly. See how it's going to start the line right there at that spot. So I just did something wrong, so I'm going to hit undo and start again. You need to put your cursor over the end of the line, but do not click on anything on your mouse. Just gently take your mouse without touching any of the buttons and start moving it up. And you'll see that you'll get a green dashed line again that's showing that it's going at exactly 90 degrees. This is called an O tracking line. And it allows me to precisely set a direction again for the line, and then type in a distance. So the line distance between lines should be 0.75. So I'm going to type 0.75 and hit enter. And now my line started exactly 0.75 inches from the first line. And I can draw it out at the length that's supposed to be, 9.313. Enter. And then I've got the second line drawn. Okay. So I'm going to do that again. This time we want to look to see what's the length of the next line supposed to be. It's supposed to be 6.875. So I'll remember that. And I've got to go to cutting plane and start that L, enter. I'm going to put my cursor over the end of this line, but I don't want to snap to it or anything with my mouse. I just want to drag my mouse straight up until I see that green dashed line. And then type in the distance 0.75 to start that new line, 0.75 inches in the 90 degree direction from the last line. And then put the length in of 6.875, I think it was. Okay, and then hit escape. Let's just check that dimension. 6.875, perfect. All right, the next line we're going to do is a dimension line. And this we're going to do a little bit differently. So notice that in the preview drawing, we have a dimension line, and the extension lines are going to the ends of the cutting plane lines. We're actually going to use the cutting plane line to create this dimension line and extension line, okay? So I go to AutoCAD, and I'm going to use a different command this time. I'm going to use a command that is dim linear, but I'm going to type out the shortcut for it. It's DLI. And you can see dim linear in parentheses, so that's the correct alias for this command. And then I'm going to follow the instructions. So with dimension, it says here to pick the first extension line origin. So I'm going to pick the end of the line here on this side, and then pick the end of the line on the other side. And then it allows me to draw a dimension, but I want to draw at a specific distance away from this line. So I'm going to track off of the midpoint. Now, if you don't have a midpoint, go down here in the middle of the command, it's okay. And just put a checkbox next to that midpoint, see? Just like that. And then go back to the view, and then that triangle will show up as your midpoint snap. Again, don't click on it, and just drag up until you see that green dash, and put in a distance of 0.75. And so that dimension line and this line should be 0.75 inches away from each other. Now I know the font doesn't match. That's all right. We're going to take care of that later. So you're going to continue to go. We're going to do one more of these just to show you how to snap from this dimension line. So this is the last one I'll do for lines. We're going to do the hidden line, 7.9 inches long. So I think you know the routine now. We want to pick hidden first, get the right line layer, and then start the line command again, because now this is just a regular line again, and I want to track off of the end of the arrow, so I'm going to put my cursor on the end of the arrow until I see the intersection symbol this time, and then just track up from that. There we go. Well, that's not quite right. See how it's tracking from the end of the line rather than the end of the arrow? So if you don't like what you're seeing, hit the tab key and start over. So I'm going to track. I don't know why it's giving me an odd angle here. So let's see if we can get this to work. There we go. I just got it to work by zooming in a little closer. So I can track up 90 degrees, 0.75, and then we want to draw the length of that line as 7.9. And you're going to keep going until you have the rest of the lines drawn.